everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Music Podcast, where today I am joined by Joanne Shaw Taylor. Joanne is an English-born singer and blues guitarist who was discovered by Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics back in 2001 when she was just 16 years old. Since that time, she has played with some of the greatest musicians in the world. She is a two-time winner of the Best Female Vocalist Award at the British Blues Awards, as well as the Songwriter of the Year Award. And in 2021, Joanne had her first #1 on the Billboard Blues Albums chart with the appropriate The Blues Album, produced by the great Joe Bonamassa, of course. She has since released another new record called Nobody's Fool, and she is ready to hit the road and bring her brand of great blues music to her fans. Joanne, it is an honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on, love.
Absolutely. Nobody's Fool. A great record. A little bit different for you this time around, right?
It is, yeah. It's a bit of a departure for me, which was intentional. You know, it's the first time in my career I kind of felt like I'd put out two traditional or more traditional blues albums. So when I came to write this one, it was kind of like that little devil on your shoulder going, hey, you could like do like an acid jazz album right now and, you know, sneak it out and you'd probably be forgiven. So yeah, I had no kind of rules for this album. It was just a fun kind of, let's see what songs we can write.
Yeah, and it's really diverse, and it's a little more vocally driven, which is really cool to see. Fade Away, just a gorgeous, elegant, poignant song, very vocally driven. Runaway, a light, airy pop almost song. The album's not quite as jammy, you might say. Of course, there's your signature blues sound on there, and that guitar work. But a little more of a structured song-driven record. That was intentional, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. For a couple of reasons. One, the one I just mentioned, where, you know, I kind of felt like I could stretch out a little bit more on this one because of doing the blues album and the blues album live within the space of 12 months. So I felt like I had a bit more sort of creative and artistic freedom. And also, it was the first time I'd sat down and wrote since 2018. So I had, you know, a nice little break from it. And it was just, I was curious really to see if I could write. I love really loud, gritty, personality-driven blues guitarists. But I really, really love a chorus that you can't get out of your head that you sing all day.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to expand on that and see if I could kind of blend the two a little bit, I suppose. And some songs, like you just mentioned, Runaway and Fade Away, obviously when you write those songs, you kind of think, all right, I don't need a guitar solo in this. Or if I do need one, I really need to write a clever one that justifies itself being in there. So that was a bit of a challenge. And then like the title track, Nobody's Fool, it was kind of fun to see if I could make blues cross into pop, you know, which it's a very chirpy blues shuffle for me, I think.
Yeah. And I love to hear you talk about writing a song like that, making that solo fit, not just jamming it in there, just so you can play. You're playing to the song. That is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I listen to so many. I listen to music constantly. I hear so many great players that the songs are just they're vehicles for their playing.
Yeah.
But they're not great songs, so to speak. And that's a little bit disappointing, although they're great players to hear. You have that whole package, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, again, I love that, you know. I mean, and I think that comes from my first big influence being Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know. And if you've seen Stevie live, he could stretch out. But if you listen to Texas Flood, Pride and Joy is a 3.5-minute lovely pop song.
Yep.
The catchy pop song Love Struck Baby, you know, and he almost sings those guitar solos.
Yeah.
You know, they really fit. So I've always loved that kind of challenge of how do I fit a guitar solo in this that the song deserves.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. And I sit back and I see, the success you've had in the past from the beginning. But then I see this massive success with the #1 Billboard Blues album. You got Joe in your corner there. That's an album of covers. There's a great elation for me as a fan I'm
Mm.
so happy for you, but there's also a frustration a little bit for me as a fan,
Mm.
where you wrote 6 albums before that of your own material
Hmm.
and didn't get that number one. They're great success, but not quite what the
Mm.
covers album was. And I just feel as a fan that your album, I mean, your songwriting is so strong, and
I
it
think.
deserves that kind of accolades, that kind of accolades that you got with the covers album. Um, it's kind of like that band who writes great songs and then they do one cover and that's what they're known for. Uh,
Mhm.
it's great that they found the success, but it's a little bit disappointing because they're, their writing isn't recognized as much. Do you ever feel that frustration as the writer?
I don't. I think for me, it's been perfect timing. I love all my albums, and I think, I treat them in one hand kind of like my children. You're very protective of them, and when making them, you do the best that you can. But I also think albums I view them as snapshots of my life in those 2 weeks that I'm making them. So it's given how much I tour, it's not like I get 2 years to go into the studio and come up with a concept. And it's like, right, you got 2 weeks, go write an album. And I think I've done as well as I can in those times to write the best album I could at that time. And I think I've done the best to write the album that felt right to write at that time. And so when I look back on my catalog, White Sugar very much sounds like 22-year-old Joanne, and Diamonds in the Dirt sounds very much like 24-year-old Joanne. And so I actually really love that. And I think it was a nice build for me. I think Nobody's Fool, I don't think I could have written that album if I hadn't have experimented on all of the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
And been allowed to grow as an artist and, as a young woman. So I think it was important to have it progress the way it did. That said, if I was still earning no money and not having any success, I might feel differently. But I'm looking at it from a beneficial standpoint.
Yeah, and it's great to have a diary of a musical diary, so to speak. So yeah, it's wonderful. Um, I think now Duran Duran, The Move, Moody Blues, Black Sabbath, ELO, Judas Priest. The list goes on and on and on.
Half of Led Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, of course. Black Country, West Midlands, Birmingham, a breeding ground. Absolute breeding ground for great music. The legendary.
It's a virus that
it's unbelievable. I can't think of any other place really in the world. Maybe Los Angeles, just because of it's kind of the place to go. But what is it about the Black Country that is music? Did you have great music in your schools? What is it? Is it something in the air? What is it about the Black Country that puts out all this wonderful music?
Firstly, no, I didn't have good. I went to a very small village school that was Church of England, which means, the Queen is the head of the church. So it was about as British and rock and roll as you get. I think for me, the city I could compare West Midlands to, the area of the West Midlands to, is probably Detroit.
Where you are now, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I split time between Detroit and Nashville, but I've been in Detroit for 15 years. And I think the reason is because they're both very industrial towns as well, car industry, and then in the Black Country had the coal mines. Right. And I think there's something about those working class towns with just good, honest people whose lives are hard. It's hard to have that kind of job year after year till you're, a good age.
Yeah.
That they learn to have, one, a good sense of humor, two, to look for other means to be happy. And I think, creative outlets. Everyone in my family loved music. They loved, sport, football, Right. And I think those working class towns kind of produce those sort of people. So I think it's that's always been my sort of assumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, totally makes sense. You split your time between Detroit and Nashville, to, Nashville, Music City, Detroit, Motown, very musical as well. Is it inspirational to you to be in these places? Is it important, your location, when you're, say, writing?
I think so. I think just generally, I'm slightly older now. I'm 38. I'm, vastly quickly staring 40 in the face. I'm not the spring chicken I used to be.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, and particularly, being on the road for 25 years, back's not what it used to be. But I think there's something about finding balance in life. I'm very lucky that I've managed to live my passion and, have it be my means of income. But you get to the age where you realize in order to be the best person and the best musician and the best daughter, you have to find that balance. And those two places for me are equally inspiring. There's some, I've got a studio in Detroit. I've got a lot of singer-songwriter friends here, also predominantly female, which is really nice. And also just, places where people care about me and have been in my career and in my life for some time. So, that in itself, whenever I'm in those two places, I'm well rested, I'm cared for, and I'm inspired. So I think that you can't really go wrong if you've got those three things.
Can't ask for much more than that, right?
No.
Now I just had Eric Gales on the show. I've had
I just saw him 2 nights ago in Nashville.
He's just an incredible player, that upper echelon. Kenny Wayne Shepherd as well. A great guy, a great player. You're in that realm. You're in that upper echelon. The Joe Bonamassa. And it's, I looked at that and I said, Eric Gales started when he was 14 or 15, and had prominence at that time. Kenny, the same thing. Johnny Lang, so kind of the same thing. Blues players, you started very early on. It's a thing. It just, all those great players. Joe, of course, just a kid. It started very, very early in the genre. Is that a blues thing, you think? How does that happen for the younger kids?
I'm not sure it's just a blues thing, to be honest. I think maybe it's a music thing. If you look into most bands, biographies, whether it's Keith Richards or, Dave Stewart, they got into their dad's record collection, or they heard this song on the radio, or they saw Hendrix on Top of the Pops. I think it's something that does grab you young. And also I think when you get into music, if you end up being professional, it's because there's no other option. This is such a diehard passion, and almost the only means that you know how to be yourself, and express yourself. Yeah. So I think that takes hold very young. But it was nice for me when I got into blues and discovered all these artists like Albert Collins and Luther Allison, and most of them were dead, and they weren't, they were around in your lifetime, and my lifetime. But it was nice to see Johnny Lang when he did Lie to Me, and it's like, hey, this kid looks like me, and he's only a couple of years older than me. And then Kenny, and then, Eric. Though even at that stage, I couldn't understand a word Eric was playing. It was way beyond my abilities. And then trying to watch him with the left-handed thing, it's like, I got no chance. So that was pretty inspiring, I have to say.
Yeah. Now, the difference with yourself, of course, is you are a woman. There are more
kind of information.
I think of Anna Popovich as well. Great player in that same
wonderful.
But do you find it difficult, less accepting? You got to work a little harder. All those things we hear. Is that stigma follow you?
Yeah, I mean, it used to annoy me a lot when I was younger, because I hated being a novelty, because I wanted to be taken seriously. I really was very serious about what I did. And I was so desperate to get out of my teens so I could stop being a teenage blues sensation.
Right.
And then I turned 20 and I became female guitar player. Like, I never saw that coming.
Will you ever be a guitar player, right?
Yeah, and I still get that. I mean, there's been other challenges, which I only talk about this because, me and a lot of female artists of my age agree. Hopefully we can make things a little bit easier for the next generation of girls coming through. Right. So I've always said, one of my favorite quotes, I can't remember who it was, it may have been Virginia Woolf, but she said, whatever a woman does, she has to do twice as well as a man to be thought half as good.
Yeah.
And I think that's still, there's still a large amount of men that are surprised that I can play guitar the way I do, as if it's
so strange,
unimaginable that someone with my disability of being female could, get to the level.
It's so strange to me, just because, well, I deal with so many musicians and I hear so much music that it's just not a thing to me. It makes I don't see a difference. I pick something up and I hear what they play. I don't even realize that they're male or female. It doesn't
such
even
a gender neutral instrument,
Yeah.
And I think the main thing where it actually benefited me or sort of changed the course of my career, that if I had been a guy, I'd have probably just carried on listening to blues and absorbing all that music. Whereas as a female, when it came to trying to learn to sing, I could copy Steve Ray Vaughan and Johnny Lang on guitar, but I was never going to sound that way. So I had to go find other artists that I could, learn from and kind of copy what they were doing. And, I was never going to do that with Howlin' Wolf. It was right. But, Dusty Springfield and Christine McVie, and then later more into Tina and Mavis and other Bonnie Raitt. It opened up a whole world of music for me. And that's why I think I've become the artist I am, which is for me a blues guitarist, but not necessarily a blues artist. It's a bit more of a bigger umbrella.
Yeah.
And the other nice thing is that there are more females out there now, like Anna doing it and Sam, because I was the only one that I knew of when I was growing up. And it's, Joe had Kenny and Johnny and Zara Gales and all his mates. And I had Sam Fish and Anna.
Right.
Yeah. That's been great.
Yeah, that's great. Now you get discovered by Dave Stewart, 2001. It took about 7 years before White Sugar comes out. I guess, why the long delay? Were you anxious to get something recorded or not? And it doesn't seem like Dave was very involved. I would expect him to be your producer and, kind of under that wing. But that didn't seem to happen, at least from the outside, with White Sugar. Can you go over that a little bit?
Yeah. And it goes back a bit to what I said about me making albums, because there's nothing that really annoys me on, there's so much stuff on socials now. And the only comment that ever gets under my skin is, the reason Joanne did this album is because she wants this. It's like, you don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know why I've made this art. Yeah. And I've only ever made decisions based on what feels right for me. And when the Dave deal went bust, Dave was incredibly helpful. And he got me in with BMG, I think, at the time. And he got me in with Steve Lillywhite over at Ireland and quite a few different people who were all fantastic, but they all saw me a particular way. One wanted me to sound like Norah Jones of the blues, wanted me to be Avril Lavigne of the blues. And I phoned Dave when I was about 19, and I said, Dave, would you mind if I don't take any of these deals? I think I'm going to wait a bit. I'm going to shop for like an independent blues deal. I'm sure it won't be as good a deal, but I feel like that's who I am and that's what I need to focus on. And he was like, that's great. Absolutely. Just can't wait, And he said something like, just remember when you're 85 and I'm 110 and, they're still going to be wheeling me out on stage with you to play. So, all right, thanks. Because I was really nervous about making that phone call. I was only a kid. So Roof offered a deal at that time and I ended up backing out at the last minute. Because I just wanted to, I just didn't feel I was ready. I didn't want to make a mistake and make an album that, it's there forever. So I took a few years and my parents were fantastic and I stayed with them for free, but I got a bar job in the week to just kind of cover my car insurance. And then the deal was I took half the week to focus on working on songs and do some gigs and just keep working on it. And anyway, long story, not very short, when I was 22, I finally felt ready and I reached back out to Thomas and thankfully he said, all right, let's do it.
Man, that is so great. I love hearing that. You're doing what you want to do for sure.
I think you have to. I mean, at the end of the day, if I was gonna make, first, if you're gonna make art, it's only gonna be good if it's something you really believe in, And if I don't believe in it, I can't make you believe in it. If I'm not enjoying it, you're definitely not going to enjoy it because I can't sell it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if I wanted to be miserable, I'd have picked a job that actually paid well. I wouldn't have chose to do my passion, So
Right.
I
Right.
think when you pick kids out there, if you're brave enough to decide to follow your passion in life, then, go all in, don't
Yeah.
look back and go, oh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a big gig here. You're playing with Annie Lennox.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the last time you played with Angel Wings on, huh?
Last, I believe. I mean, never say never.
But take me through that moment. Of course, the infamous pedal malfunction at the Diamond Jubilee in front of Buckingham Palace. You're at the Queen's house, uh, and you go to play your solo. You hit your pedal, and there's nothing. A little, no distortion that you needed, or that the whatever effect you were going for is gone, and you play that solo. What's your feeling? What's going through your head as you start that solo?
I'm going to tell you two things. Which, firstly, my dad lives on right next to Buckingham Palace now. So whenever I go visit him, I walk around the front, and I'm like, oh, here we are again. The other thing is, now I'm old enough, I will admit that the pedal didn't malfunction. I messed up.
Okay. Okay.
So because it was the monarchy, we couldn't have guitar amps on stage because they can't be seen to endorsing any kind of product.
Right.
So the amps were quite far away and we had in-ears. But obviously when there's a distance between, you couldn't really hear anything. Plus there's 3 million people waving Union Jacks and screaming. So unbeknownst to me, we'd choreographed it so that I would stand and play rhythm and Annie would be at the front. And when it was time for my solo, I would hit the pedal and go walk towards Annie, which I did. And it's only when I hit the pedal and got to Annie, I realized it was quieter. So I think what happened was I had the boost on for the rhythm and turned it off for the solo.
Okay.
At which point I was like out by Annie and I can just turn around and
Right.
so I messed that up for myself as usual. If something goes wrong in my career, it's usually my fault.
And it's still beautiful, and I think you got a compliment from I forget who it was that loved Stevie Wonder maybe.
It
Uh
was.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
this
yeah.
drum tech came and found me. I was trying to get out because it was chaos when everyone was trying to leave. He's
Hmm.
like, hey, and Stevie's drum tech, and he wanted me to tell you if I saw you that he loved your really clean blues sound. I was like, oh, well, that worked out well. Sitting there feeling like an idiot. I was like, thank God for that.
You gotta love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Uh when you're out on the road, talk about guitars. Are you somebody that brings a case of 15, 20 guitars with you? Or are you a person that plays one or two every night?
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. I don't like to change guitars too much through a performance. I mean, firstly, I'm a one guitar kind of woman, a one man kind of gal. And Junior, my main guitar, just nothing ever feels as good as that to me. And again, I don't like stopping the show to have to do a change every couple of numbers. I'd rather get through the bulk of the set list. So I only change if I really need a different tone. So I'll go to a Les Paul or we've got a little acoustic segment, so I'll obviously change there. But yeah, I don't like stopping and starting in the inconsistency, and I don't think the audience does either, I suspect.
Yeah, well, I think there's a certain maybe a prima donna like kind of view to somebody who plays a different guitar in every song. I think for the blues, I think we love that player that just rips on anything, grabs a
Mm.
plastic guitar and plays the blues. That kind of Jack White attitude where, it's not the shoes, it's the player,
Mm.
uh
I always loved that as well. Growing up, watching, all my early influences was Albert Collins always had that telly. BB King had Lucille, Stevie had number one. Like there was a tradition of you find your partner, your instrument of choice, of
yeah.
your means of expression. Johnny Lang had the thin line telly. So I always wanted that kind of signature
and you
partner.
and yours is Junior.
Mhm.
When you were 15, right? You've had that guitar your whole life pretty much. You still use it. It's your guitar.
Sitting over there.
It's just awesome. Um, if you could keep one guitar, that would be the one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would go so far as to say if I lose that guitar, I don't perform anymore.
Wow.
I don't think I could.
Wow.
Yeah, it just wouldn't feel right.
It's your
Yeah,
heart.
I don't think I would want to.
It is your beating heart, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm having an argument with my family at the moment because I plan for him to be buried with me, and obviously they don't. My brother's like,
Wow.
well, I think Oscar was kind of hoping he might.
Wow. That is, man, what a story that is. That is beautiful. So there's, I mean, you can feel that,
Yeah, it's
you
really hard to
feel that.
explain. My TM Chrissy knows that. I think she's one of the few people I've told that. So if she sees any of the guys go near him, because we keep him on the bus, she has a stern conversation about the fact that Junior is more important in this organization than they are. I'm like, it's not
Well, I
completely
mean, with,
right, Chrissy, but I appreciate you defending him for me.
well, with you, I mean, with you honestly saying that, you would have trouble playing if it was gone. That is a
And
thing.
it does sound very pretentious, and it's really hard to explain. I don't know
It's
how else
beautiful.
to explain it. It's just a tool, and it feels like the tool that I just feel like I wouldn't really ever be able to play the way I do or sing without. I don't know. I know it sounds pretentious, but I do mean it from a heartfelt place.
Oh, I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing. It's beautiful. It is a piece of you. It's wonderful. Um, I've heard you are a big AC/DC fan.
A
Uh,
little
you
bit, a
have
bit.
you have an older brother who took a little bit of a harder route. I
Hmm.
also heard. If you get a call from a band, something like an AC/DC or something more, kind of a blues rhythm based thing, something that you would fit into. Is that a gig you take? Would you not be a solo artist, be part of a band, play rhythm guitar in AC/DC on, for their tour? Would you do
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
You even see my arse for dust. I shut down all the socials. Yeah, obviously. I don't think I could though. I don't think I'm a versatile enough musician. Like I would have loved to have gotten the Prince gig.
Mm,
When he was alive, it just seemed like, okay, he's got to run out of female guitar players at some point. I'm going to have to get a phone call. And obviously that didn't happen. But I don't think I'm, versatile enough to do that. But yeah, my dream is to play drums with AC/DC. I can't play the drums, but
really?
I just love Live at Donington was the first album I got, and just the playing on that is just it's so solid.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a tight rhythm and blues.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this, how can you not tap your foot? Uh,
Yeah.
just a beautiful thing. If you could have a conversation with any living person, who would that be?
Ooh, any living person. Keith.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love him. Love,
yeah,
love, love him.
yeah.
Um,
I would have loved to see a collaboration there. That would be something. That would
I just
be,
want to have a drink with him, talk
yeah,
about records,
yeah.
tell him I love him.
Wouldn't that be great? I think we'd all love that. Is there something you've always wanted to do you've done so much in your life,
Mm.
in your short life, you've accomplished so much,
Oh.
making dreams come true for yourself too. Is there something you haven't had a chance yet? Something that tops your bucket list?
I think creatively, I'd like to work with other artists, and see if I can help them, particularly younger artists,
Hmm.
particularly females coming up, I think that would be very rewarding.
Yeah.
I would love to do another project that's completely different to what I do, just for fun, whether that's
Acid jazz.
fuzzy guitars with drum loops and, like Skunk Anansie meets Rage Against the Machine or something, who knows? But so there's a few things. I think mostly I just want to keep touring and hopefully keep making good albums and albums I'm proud of that, I can look back and still enjoy.
That's awesome. And I have to mention Carmen Vandenberg of Bones UK on the album, Jeff Beck's band, Tina Guo,
Mm-hmm.
great cellist, just massive on that song. Just these are artists that you're playing with and putting out there for us to hear. It's
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, Carmen's someone I would love to do a collaboration with on a project like that.
yeah,
Because again, she's a very interesting artist to me. Her number one guitar players, other than Jeff, is Albert Collins, which
man.
is mine. And neither of us sound, I think, alike or make music that sounds alike. So I find that really interesting that, two girls of the same age or similar age can have the same influence and end up, opposite sides.
Yeah. It's very cool. It's very cool. You got a tour. You got March 13th to 17th. You're on Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea. Musical cruise, something I've always wanted to do.
You've got to do it. I love them. I love them. Everyone's surprised when I say that, but I would do them 24/7, 365 if I could.
Wow. See, and I always wanted to go on a cruise, and a music cruise like that is just a dream come true for me. I've never had a chance to do that. I am going to do that one of these days.
It's like, for me, I think I was a pirate in a previous life, so I love being at sea anyway. And then it's just nice to have that much connection with fans, because usually if you're at a gig, it's their one chance in a year or two to be able to see you. So, if you do get interaction with fans, it's very rushed and panicky. Whereas when fans know you're on a boat with them for 5 days and you can't go anywhere, it becomes a lot more casual and, like, hey, Joanne, what floor are you going to? Number 7, cool. So you're on the full stage, but, it's just a lot more calmer and respectful and cool. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. That's awesome. You've got more tour coming. You're doing some dates in the States for March and April. No Chicago date. I'm here in Chicago. This is the home of the blues.
No, I think we did the East Coast at the end of last year, though. So I think we're doing sort of like Florida and around, and then we'll do the East Coast probably, I'm sure, September, October.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to Chicago date. Can't wait to check you out on the road. It's been an absolute honor.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Thank you
You're more than welcome. Can I ask you a question before we go?
Absolutely.
What's your cat's name?
This is Goblin. He's
Goblin
with me all the time. He had a brother, another black, Spooky, and so we had two scary cats. We're down to one, but yeah.
I'm trying to get cats, but we've got 2 birds at the moment. So
okay.
We're kind of worried about the murder risk.
Yeah, cats and birds probably aren't a good mix.
I've seen a few cartoons and they never ended well for the birds. So.
I have a dog around here too.
You're living my dream.
A big golden retriever. So that's another thing. I love my pets.
That's what actually I take it back when you said is the one thing I want to do. I want to have a big plot of land with as many rescue dogs and cats and birds, owls, parrots.
Beautiful.
And I love cats, but I love dogs. They're just the best people on earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, Joanne, I'll let you go. Please come to Chicago and at some point.
I would love to.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you.
Likewise, love. I'll warn you, I'm a hugger.
All right. I can't wait.
All right, love. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.